Mr. President, I'm here to share a little bit of Alaska. I know that you will also appreciate the update on an event that we in Alaska celebrate every year for the past 46 years. The annual Iditarod race has been run in the state of Alaska. This is a sled dog race of international fame, a race that begins just outside of Anchorage, Alaska, and ends in Nome, about 1,000 miles. I think this year's southern route was 998 miles to be exact. It's one of the longest dog sled races on Earth, and it travels over some pretty interesting terrain, and interesting is a choice word to use as you cross mountains and frozen tundra and forests and out on the frozen ice. The Iditarod is truly a race for only the most hardy, only the best. The Iditarod itself commemorates the deadly 1925 diphtheria outbreak that happened in Nome. And there was no way to get the diphtheria from the coastal area down in Seward at the time all the way up to Nome. This was before we had air transport as a viable option. And so the real question is how do you move this? How do you move it quickly? This is the middle of the winter. And so it was not a race. This was a life-saving mission to move serum, again, 1,000 plus miles to the north to save a community. And they resorted to a relay of dog sleds, of dog teams to move that serum. Today, the Iditarod is no longer a relay. It is a race of individual sled dog teams. Again, it's about a 1,000-mile race that is the test of determination, certainly of the musher and to the canine mushers, but it is tough. It is tough. It started off, it's always the first weekend in March, but this time of year in Alaska, sometimes conditions can be pretty good, above zero. Sometimes they can be 30 degrees, 40 degrees below zero. Sometimes you can have ground blizzard and wind conditions moving close to 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. So when you want to talk about wind chill out there, it is real. It is extreme. This 46th annual running of the Iditarod hasn't been that challenging in terms of the cold, in terms of what they've seen in the past, but there's always some bump. There's always something that causes the race to be a little bit different. This year, the mushers had a scheduled checkpoint on Eagle Island. This is a place where they take a mandatory 8-hour break. And the game changer in the race this year was snow conditions. Because of the ceiling, planes could not drop food for the mushers, and so they had to take this very critical checkpoint off of the board. So the mushers plan all this out in advance of their trip. They kind of know where they're going to be along the way. They plan their moves. And so this was a pretty unanticipated event at the end and can impact you. But you've got mushers that are pretty versatile, pretty adaptable, and they took the news in stride, continued up the Yukon River towards other rest stops there. Nicholas Petit, who had arrived in Anvik, he was the front runner at the time, and he's like, no big deal. My strategy is an evolving thing. And yet that evolving thing allows for, again, curveballs that get in the way. In the instance of Nick Petit, a Girdwood musher from a place that you and I frequent often and I call home, front runner, everyone's quite excited, and long story short, lost the trail and lost the lead. And you think to yourself, wait a minute, how can you lose the trail? Well, this is not a NASCAR race where you just go around the same track here. This is 1,000 miles, and if it's windy, if it's blowing, if it's ground cover that you can't see through, things happen, and things truly happen. On top of the harsh climate conditions that the mushers face, there are occasionally chance encounters with some wildlife. You've got moose, you've got caribou, you've got bear out there, porcupines, and they're all potential rendezvous for mushers around the trail. One of the interesting headlines coming out of the Iditarod this year was a headline that says, Iditarod musher chases bison off with axe. Axe, yeah. Marcelle Fresneau, she and her 14 sled dogs were between Rhone and Nikolai, and they come face to face with a mother bison and her calf. So what do? You don't want your dogs to be in danger, so tough Alaskan woman takes her axe and charges the bison and says, go away, go away. Long story, they ran away, and she continued her journey to Nome. But you have to admit, people like this are ready for adventure. They're full of grit and determination to succeed. And of course, it's not just the mushers. It is the canine athletes. It is these dogs that truly are the inspiration to watch along the journey. This year's Iditarod kicked off with 67 talented, resilient competitors from all over Alaska and the world, 67 dog teams. This year, Joar Ulsom was the first musher to arrive in Nome. He came in Wednesday morning just after 3 a.m. He is originally from Norway, and he's been dreaming of being an Iditarod racer since he was a kid. And in 2011, he relocated to Willow, Alaska, which is our dog mushing capital of the world, and he really has made this dream a reality. He is a seasoned racer. He first completed the Yukon Quest in 2012 and other races since then. He won the race in 9 days and 12 hours. Again, this is not a record-breaking time. The snow slowed things down, but think about it. Think about it. Standing on the back of your sled for 9 days and 12 hours, minimal sleep, constant attention to the dogs in front of you. It's just an extraordinary story. The newspapers are telling the story of Joar crossing the finish line in Nome. Thousands of people have gathered under the Burl Arch to congratulate him. It's about 4 degrees at, again, 3 a.m. And you've got 1,000 people out on the street. It was actually my brother and my sister-in-law who had come all the way from Brazil to be there on the other end. It was my sister-in-law's dream of a lifetime, bucket list, to be able to be there at the end of the Iditarod. But Joar and his team are happy, and we are very, very pleased for him. I offer hearty congratulations to our 2018 Iditarod champion and his team of amazing dogs. I wish all the competitors that are still, many of whom are still out on the trail, success and safety as they compete in this extraordinary last great race on Earth.